Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello, everyone. It's Friday night, and you know what that means. It's Paranormal Review Radio Night with your host from New York City, Anthony Agati.
And me, Lucy Liebfried from Chicago.
The one and only show that gives you information you crave on all things paranormal. No bull, no fakes, no guessing, just the facts. But the show wouldn't be what it is without our listeners. You all demand to hear the truth, and we are here to deliver it, without any commercial interruptions or lame music breaks. You can get that on FM radio and other internet stations. Not on our show and not on your time. This is truly your free radio.
That's right, Anthony. Boy, do we have a great show for you tonight. Our phone lines are open, so give us a call. Our show number is 661-244-9831. We definitely want you to call in tonight. The phone lines are open for the entire show, so join the conversation. If you don't feel like calling in, our chat room is open, so post your comments, questions, or feel free to discuss with other members. Don't forget, we have a Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio. Stop by and visit to learn more about tonight's show. Anthony, what are we discussing tonight?
Thanks, Lucy. Tonight is where we are going to discuss why people and groups fake evidence or commit scams within the paranormal community. What is the reason behind doing this, and what do they think that they're going to accomplish? Is it for power, money, fame? Well, Lucy and I will get into all of this later on in the show, but up first, we have a very special guest. This man is the lead investigator and host of Sci-Fi Channel's Fact or Faked Paranormal Files, which actually premieres April 17th, so make sure you mark your calendars. With his background in FBI and a passion for UFOs, our guest tonight will enlighten us all on some of the fraud and hoaxes he has seen and investigated on the show. What better way to discuss the topic on scams and paranormal fraud than with the guy that attacks these claims head on? We are extremely excited to have him on the show tonight, and I know you all out there listening are anxious to hear what he has to say. So, without further ado, please welcome Mr. Ben Hansen to the show. Hi, Ben. How are you?
How's it going?
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Anthony and Lucy for having me on.
No, thank you.
Great. We're excited to have you on. We truly are.
We really are.
I love the topic, especially around April Fools.
Great. Well, this isn't April Fool's. We're not fooling anybody other than the scam artists out there that are doing it.
Well, it's good timing too, because it kind of the subject comes up around this time of year, and this is the first time I've done it. Let's see. Well, I guess we're a day or so away from it, but yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to call us. And I know our listeners out there were, anxious to hear what you guys say. So I'd like to get right into it. And I really have a question that has been bothering me all day, and I want to ask you right off the bat. Have you played Mega Millions today?
Have I played what?
Mega Millions, the lottery?
Mega Millions. Oh, no. I was watching that on the news. Yeah, what are they up to, like 256 million or more? Or was it's like doubles, like if they don't have a winner tonight, it's like nearly $1 billion or something?
Yeah.
Well, over here in New York, it's $500 million, so.
$500 million,
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, I have not played.
Well, you know what? we just mentioned that the new season of Fact or Fake is starting on April 17th. So I'm assuming it has finished filming?
No, we were scheduled to finish probably around February, and we took kind of about a month and a half break over Christmas, and so we're actually still filming the last 3 episodes right now. We won't be done until probably about May.
Wow.
So it's been nonstop. We've been filming since June, and we're hoping that we get picked up again for a new 12 episodes really soon after these ones start airing. So you'll have a season 4, which might air, at the beginning of 2012. So we just roll right into it, keep filming, which is good.
Oh, that's good. I know everybody is excited about it. I know we are. But basically, let's get into tonight's show. It's about frauds and scams in the paranormal community. And specifically, we want to talk about paranormal groups and skeptics. It's becoming an increasing concern that many people are faking evidence in order to gain popularity and put down other groups. And have you noticed an increase in fake evidence in the last year or so?
I don't know that I would, be able to tell like a certain time, when it started increasing. It's been the past year or 2 years or last couple decades. But what I have noticed kind of is the way that they're being faked. The increase that we have on our use of technology. For example, in the 90s, when very few people knew how to use computer software programs, they weren't that easy to use. They were very expensive. Beginning around the turn of the millennium in 2000, you started to see programs that anybody could get on within a couple of minutes and edit things. And I think around that time was kind of when you saw this explosion, because then YouTube became popular, within a few years, and you saw the vehicle for people to be able to put their videos out there. So as far as videos go, yeah, I mean, we've seen an explosion of faked evidence. In other manners, I'm not quite so sure that there's been like a drastic, increase.
So why do you think people are doing it?
Well, there's a number of reasons, I believe, and it's kind of like the way I like to look at it is kind of approach it like I'm investigating a crime. And one of the first things you try to determine is motive, and when you're doing an investigation, if you can figure out motive, you can also put a lot of the other pieces of the puzzle together. What I lecture on now is really a lot on the subject is different, ways, or I should say categories of faking. If you look at, for example, UFO videos, UFO sightings, 95% of them are explained, and that still holds true today. You have the 5% that are still unsolved, but the 95% includes misidentifications, but also includes the hoaxes and the outright frauds. So I don't think that has changed so much, but like I said, it's the way in which people are doing it. And why are they doing it? Well, a lot of them, I think, some of them are in it for the money. You can actually make some decent pocket change if you get a couple million hits on YouTube. With advertising, they come to you and ask to put up banners. Not a whole lot, but you can make some change off of that. Book deals, like you don't make a whole lot if a TV show comes along and wants to do your story. But there is some money involved, and there are a few examples of people who have made hundreds of thousands of dollars on very complex hoaxes. More likely than that, I think it's for recognition and fame. You have some people who do it just because they want to be the next viral video,
right.
Sensation. And then you have people who do it out of boredom or who are testing their skills. And I call these people the showcasers. they're the ones who don't really care either way. You know, they don't necessarily care to be famous. They just want to try their skills at seeing how many people they can fool, and it's fun for them. So kind of those are the categories. And then you have one other, which I call legendizing. And legendizing is when someone has a legitimate experience and there's something called not confirmation bias, but legendizing. They have a legitimate experience, and for one reason or another, they begin to feel like either no one believes them and they have to generate fake evidence, or they feel like they start seeing the dollar signs or some other motive. And so what they do is they take that legitimate experience, and every couple of months when their story starts to disappear, a couple of years, and it fades from the public's view, they will add to that story. And you'll see new things coming out, new contacts, new videos, and it starts getting really far-fetched. So I guess that's kind of an overview of what I'm seeing in the patterns.
Well, we noticed, like, on the show, you're very methodical, and I know your background has a lot to do with it. But have you ever come across a case on the show when at first you thought, okay, this is definitely real, or this is a great piece of evidence, but then after the investigation you found them to be completely false?
Well, it's more so the other way around. I mean, I think I kind of go into it with I don't like the word skeptic, but a more skeptical view that there's got to be an explanation for this, and then it turns out to be unsolved. There have been some people who have let me down, I think, but it's more so the misidentifications that have let me down, not so much the hoaxing. It's for example, we did a case in El Paso where 3 lights came down as one and then split into 3 and then hovered for a while. And I thought, wow, there's no conventional explanation for this. But when we actually put the skydivers up there and tried it out, I was let down, because it replicated it exactly. So yeah, there's a few of those that we run into, and it still doesn't negate that I've seen things I can't explain.
Does that, when you come across something like that, does it ever put a dent in your belief?
No, it doesn't. Somebody who is a really good liar sometimes shakes you up. And it used to do the same thing to me when I investigated child sex crimes. I would hear, or severe physical abuse, I'd interview the children and then interview the parents. And sometimes you get so into believing what the child says, and then you interview the parent and you get into something totally contradictory, the facts, but then you start to believe them. And you're left thinking, well, what do I believe? So that can shake you up, when you're out doing a paranormal investigation, and both sides seem equally plausible, and so, there are cases like that.
Wow. So do you think with all the fakes and frauds that are being put forward in the media, do you think it's discouraged or maybe empowered more folks to become involved in paranormal investigating?
Both, actually. You've got 2 things going on. One of them, take, for example, the TV show Ghost Hunters, like the grandfather of the genre. Before they came along, I think most people would agree that a lot of people had this idea of ghost hunting was like seances, and that people would go and light candles and hold hands, and some people did do that. But what they weren't aware of is that there were groups who legitimately tried to use technology and a methodical process. And when Ghost Hunters came along and introduced that to the world, it customized or acclimatized people into thinking this is more mainstream. This isn't so weird. And so I think it got a lot more people into it. A lot more people are open-minded to it. Then we have, on the other hand, though, I think the overuse of technology has created problems. it's great. It's great that we have video cameras and we have EMF meters and night vision and all these things. However, what's happened is that we're left in a place where we have given technology kind of a badge of authority, because it can be everywhere, it can see everything, it can do everything. And if we don't catch it on video, some people will say, well, then it never happened. Does that make sense?
Right.
So
yeah.
You have these TV shows and you have these the media covering it, and what are they limited to? Visual and audio. And if they don't have that and they can't replicate that experience for someone else to believe it, then we really don't rely on eyewitness testimony anymore. We don't trust people's accounts of their stories of things that happened to them. It's all diminished because we believe we have to have the video. And I think that's one of the side effects.
Wow. How did you become interested in the paranormal?
Well, I really got into UFOs first, and that was probably because it started with watching E.T. I remember seeing that in the theaters. And then my dad would start bringing me books, and I would hide them from my friends because it was kind of embarrassing. And I remember just being kind of geeky about space, telescopes, all that stuff. And then when I got into college, I had heard about ghost hunting and EVPs, and not many people knew about it at that point. And I tried it myself, and I caught my first EVP. And I started to think, wow, okay, so we know a lot of this stuff exists, that the phenomenon is real. And you have people who would rather just pretend it doesn't happen and kind of put their head in the sand. And then you have people who are at least open to the possibilities and confronting some of what they think their beliefs might have a problem with, but at least they're open to exploring it. And so that was kind of my initiation into it, was a couple of experiences I had. But I always really, I guess if it makes sense, I always believed that there was life on other worlds and that there's life after death. So the big questions for me weren't like, that's not why I got into it. I just got into it because it's so cool that we are, catching up with technology, and we're able to now see these things and sometimes record them.
Right. Well, you know what? We did hear a radio interview with you, and you were discussing an absolutely fascinating story about your grandfather and possible UFO investigations in the 1960s. Can you share a little bit of the story with our listeners?
Sure. For those who know about or are into the UFOs, the Roswell, New Mexico crash in 1947, purportedly some of the debris, we know this actually. We know that the debris was taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. And the Project Blue Book was headquartered there, which, was the Air Force's study of UFOs. And a lot of things were going on. So allegedly there were certain teams when objects would crash and they didn't know what they were. They weren't ours. These teams would come out from Wright-Patterson and other locations onto the scene, collect the debris, take it back to that Air Force base. Well, my grandfather worked as a civil engineer for the Air Force since about 1950 to about 1980. And he did TDYs, temporary assignments, to Wright-Patterson. So what my dad and I are kind of piecing together right now is what Grandpa knew, because Grandpa would be called up at random times, and he was told, you need to get on a plane and come out here to Wright-Patterson. Now, it was my dad really knew is that he sat the kids down and said, look, I'm part of a special team that could be called on at any time to leave in case of emergency. And my dad was thinking, like a nuclear emergency or something. And he said, well, yeah, something like that. But what we're starting to do is kind of, now this is pure speculation, We know that my grandfather worked underground. We know that he maintained hangar systems. We know that he kind of worked with the logistics of moving projects, in different buildings and things. But the speculation is we're starting to match up times when Grandpa was gone to actual alleged UFO crashes where debris and things were taken to Wright-Patterson. So I would love it to be true. I'm not quite sure, but he maintained his oath. He died of cancer quite a while back, and on his deathbed, though, he told my father that we're not alone because he'd been pestering with these questions. And he knew what he was talking about, though, when he was referring to his question of what went on there, and he said, we're not alone. So, I'd love to know what he knew, and that's kind of what the puzzle we're putting together now.
Wow, that is just so interesting. So you mentioned we're not alone. So why is I know you have a fascination with the X-Files. So what is that? I mean, is it Scully or is it the concept of the show?
Scully was never my type. Nothing against redheads. She seemed like she needed to relax a lot, and I really did identify with Mulder. He was just kind of a, dry humor and kind of a mess off when you caught him off guard, and a lot of that you don't see in our show. I kind of think that we do have a lot of fun that doesn't get translated on the show, but the X-Files it really influenced me because I thought, well, why can't I have a job like that? I want to do both. So, I can't do both working for both employers, but this is, I think, is kind of the closest to it. It's crazy when I get out there and look around at some of the cases I'm doing and things I'm seeing, and to think that I'm getting paid to do this.
Right.
It was a great show that I think it launched a lot of interest for a lot of people into the paranormal.
Well, I know it did for us, and watching the show, I mean, it's just absolutely fascinating. So, with all that aside, your show is awesome. But what do you think about other paranormal reality shows?
Well, when I'm not on the production side of our show. I'm not a producer, but I had the opportunity to get in on the ground level when they were tossing around ideas, concepts, and I had to really look at other shows. Now, I really don't watch a lot of TV, but when I did, I knew of shows like Ghost Hunters and some of the others that were on, and nothing against any of the other shows, but what I saw that was different was that they really relied on observational experience. So you go to a location that was supposedly haunted, you sit there and you wait, you try to interact, you record data. The show that we put together, what was, I think, most distinct about it was that we started with alleged evidence, and then we tested it to make sure that we looked at all other possibilities before we jumped to the paranormal conclusion. And so it's a more interactive show. I would like to see more shows like that. And I've actually, if you look, there's a couple of them on TV now that have kind of borrowed from us, in how they do things. And so it's good to have a good mix of all of it, though.
Well, you know what, Ben, what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to read you a list of paranormal topics. And what we'd like to do is we'd love to hear what your beliefs are for each one. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay, let's start. First one is ghosts.
Ghosts. Well, let me preface all of this by my general kind of mantra is don't believe everything you hear, but don't dismiss something just because you haven't heard it before. And you can't believe everything you hear, otherwise, it would contradict itself, and it can't all be true. So with ghosts, I don't believe everything people tell me. I have never seen an apparition I have seen object manipulation. And I've heard what I believe to be disembodied voices. I've had EVPs that are really, really good. So, yeah, I would say there's good evidence that spirits, we like to call ghosts, exist.
Okay. Well, what about psychics?
Psychics. We have, as of yet, we haven't dived into that subject on our show. However, I have met some extraordinary individuals, which I believe they have gifts. Some of them do. I don't believe anybody can tell the future with, very precisely. I think some people can get impressions, but I don't think they're going to be able to tell you on this day this will happen to you, blah blah blah. Because I don't believe in fatism, if that's a word. I'm making up words right and left tonight. I don't believe that we have a predetermined fate, is what I'm trying to say. I know there's a word that I forgot in college that deals with that. But I think some people do have a gift, and they would be what I call, like sensitive to feelings, impressions, sometimes remote viewing and those types of things. I think people are skilled at, and it really happens.
Okay. How about Bigfoot?
Bigfoot. This has been a big topic lately because that everyone's interested in Bigfoot again. And as crazy, as far-fetched as this might sound, I think the phenomena, there's something to it, yes. I think there's more of a crossover into other fields, though, that some people don't want to consider. Like the cryptozoologists want to think of Bigfoot as just a living creature we haven't discovered yet. But I think the evidence is sort of against that as to why wouldn't we find, the bones and all these things. I think it might be related to some type of either interdimensional phenomena, maybe something to do with, ufology. I think it's more connected than we're realizing, because the other thing is I don't think we've really captured any really good video evidence of it. The Patterson film is so debated. The problem is any Bigfoot video you get that I've seen, you can really easily dismiss as, a guy in a monkey suit. So good videos are hard to come by with Bigfoot, but the stories are amazing. Very credible people have told me amazing stories, and I tend to believe them.
Okay, cool. What about reincarnation?
The traditional, reincarnation, in a sense, that kind of gets into the religious subjects, obviously, and my personal beliefs are that no, there is a life after this. I firmly believe, but I don't believe that we come back as somebody else, or as an animal, or something like that. I believe that once our work here is done, we go to another place, and we continue on with another, I guess, phase of our eternity, but that we're not, turned into an animal or something else.
Okay. Now the next one, I think I'm sure you've heard about this, but what about these strange sounds that everybody's hearing all over the world? Are you familiar with that one?
Stuff. Fascinating. If people will kind of do their homework, though, they'll see that the videos that are being posted, 90% or more of them are what they're doing. They're just retreads or copycats, where they'll rip off the soundtrack of a video like in Ukraine, and they'll remix it a little bit and put it on a new video, and so you'll hear the same soundtracks, and they're claiming that they captured it. There are things like in Wisconsin I tweeted about today, Clintonville I believe is where it is, where they're hearing the booming, and they come along and say, well, we did record an earthquake, but it's my understanding these earthquake they recorded does not coincide and explain all of the incidents that they're hearing. You have Dulce, New Mexico, which has had the hum, for a long time. There's places in Canada where they've assigned government teams to investigate the sounds. I don't know that they're all related, but there's definitely something to it. It's very odd. I really don't even know where to begin to, explain it.
Right. And then finally, what about December 21st, 2012, the end of the world?
Well, admittedly, I have not read any books about the Mayan prophecies, so I'm not an expert in saying what part is true, what's research, what's not. I have heard things that say that the calendar actually is about 30 years. It could be up to 30 years off. And even if it weren't off, at the end of the calendar, all that it does is the Mayan calendar repeats itself. It doesn't end. It's had to repeat itself before. So I wouldn't hold my breath, but I will say this, that coming from law enforcement as well, I would not be surprised at all if ill-intended group tried to use this as an opportunity for terrorism. So I would say be prepared, because some things might occur. It doesn't have anything to do with the end of the world, but just be ready.
Right.
So Ben, talking, extending this conversation on beliefs, do you feel as though you sort of have to separate your beliefs from your investigations on the show, or can you keep them intact while you are investigating a case?
I've never encountered anything that made me question my beliefs. When I say beliefs, my core beliefs about life and who we are, why we're here, those things. Nothing has made me question that. I do often come against things that make me wonder, well, that's very interesting. How does that fit in? But right. It doesn't turn my world around, because I know in the end it'll be explained. I do feel that I've become more open, though, to certain phenomena. And when you start out a case, we all have those biases and things, and you try to push those away and just let the evidence speak for itself. And sometimes I'm surprised. Like I always mention the interdimensional thing. I was really kind of closed to that until I saw some things that I think might fit in that category. And you get things like flying humanoids. What category do you put that in? but some people are seeing these things, and it's so weird. It's so out there. But if enough people describe similar things, and you just can't really come up with a satisfactory explanation. I think you just can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
So can you briefly describe sort of the process when you guys, your team, is given a case to investigate on the show? Like, sort of how do you prepare the team, or how do you prepare yourself? And sort of take us through the initial steps of what goes on with everybody on the team there.
Okay. Well, the preparation is well underway. I mean, before we get out to the location. With the logistics, I'd never done, TV, especially I hadn't seen how things are produced. There's a lot of logistics as far as, getting the rights for videos and things and locations.
Right.
But what we're doing in the meantime is studying and reading up. Our show is different because we don't just focus on ghosts or UFOs or, Bigfoot. We do it all.
Right.
So
right.
I have a stack of books in my room, literally like 20 high. And I've had to kind of learn how to speed read to get through all this stuff. And so when we get to location, like we're doing a case on Area 51. I'm like, I want to know all about the history. I don't care if none of this makes the TV show. I want to know about it.
Right.
So there's homework involved like that. When we look at the video over and over and over, we try to devise some possible experiments if we need help on those experiments with, certain materials or special effects, we got to get those people involved far ahead, and then getting all that stuff to location so that we're not wasting time when we're out there. Productions can be very expensive. When we get out there, a lot of times things go completely against how we had planned it. It's like an experiment just completely fails, or something like that. The weather doesn't cooperate with us.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's different for each case, but we like to start out by interviewing the witnesses, get a good baseline of what they say has been going on. Taking the video, a lot of times, mysteriously, the video is not available, the original file. Which is always suspicious for me.
Yeah.
But you do what you can with it. Some people do have legitimate reasons as to why they don't have it. So what I always say is, when you can't get any further with the video or the story, focus on the storyteller. And that's, right, I think, where my focus is my experience is best utilized, because you can replicate just about any video. But there are those cases where it really matters to look at the person who's telling you, what happened, and get into their life of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of where your FBI background comes into effect, basically. Reading people, reading their faces, getting to know, the personalities and the dichotomy of that individual itself. You've had training on that, and so I'm sure that comes into play then at that point.
I've had. I don't mean to brag, but that really is where I think I shine, because I've literally interviewed thousands of victims and perpetrators, and there are a lot of things that people can do. You don't need the technology to do it, but there's different things, great books to read. It's mostly just paying attention. And you don't necessarily I wouldn't focus most of the attention on the words they're saying. The communication is mostly nonverbal. About 70% of the meaning is derived through gestures.
Right.
And then, about 20% the tone of how they say things, and then 10% the actual words. So there's some great little techniques, great little tricks, that can help you determine if someone's being truthful with you or withholding information. And that kind of gives you what they call, the gut instinct. And once you have that, you try to follow up on it, by looking at, corroborating information or stuff like that.
So what was the most outrageous fake piece of evidence you've ever seen, on or off the show? Anything that sort of is, blows your mind or really, really disappointed you?
Well, we're seeing a lot of really cool videos online where people will start leaking. They'll put up the one video, and then you'll see a couple days later the same event from a different angle, and different people recording it, and then a week later another one. Like, those types of videos are very very intriguing, because the complexity of it is really starting to ratchet up. Like, people who take the time to film something and time something and to, make up false accounts and stories and backgrounds, and all for what? Like, these people have a lot of time on their hands.
Right.
The one that comes to mind that just struck me when you were talking about it was the Jerusalem UFO, and
exactly.
I remember seeing that one video, and then I think it was a couple of days later or a week later, you started to see another angle from another shot across the city in another area, and supposedly from another eyewitness, and and I've seen the debunked parts of videos, and people are trying to piece it out and debunk it altogether, but that one just popped in my head as soon as you were talking about that.
And that was one that kind of, was I wouldn't say it started it off, but that's probably the most popular example. Then you had some in London, the same type of thing. And it just drives people crazy trying to run down all the leads and trying to figure out, well, if you just took the one Jerusalem video, that's not hard to replicate in After Effects. You know, you have a single point of light, it goes down, zooms up. It felt, my gut felt like that animation, the acceleration is CG. However, then you start getting the other side, the other videos, the other languages people are speaking in the background. And, I mean, the complexity of the hoaxes is increasing. When you say, like, what one has just really blown me away, like, I always bring this one up, and they still make comments on my Facebook, and they're still going at it. But the case we did with, Jonathan Reed and the alien up in Washington, I was really surprised. I felt like we gave him a fair chance to explain things. I'm just surprised, not so much that the case itself was complex, much more complex than we could cover in half an hour to cover every little facet of it. But I'm surprised that some of these people hang in there for 20, 30 years in hoaxes, and they stick to their story, where they could just come out and say, yeah, I'm sorry, it was me, I feel bad. But the more I've read, and I'm not applying this to him specifically, but the more I've read about anti-personality or antisocial personality disorder, or what we call sociopaths, the more I think it can apply to some of these hoaxers.
Sure.
That 1 in every 25 people can be diagnosed with this. And what it is they really have a lack of empathy for others. And it doesn't bother them. It really doesn't bother them to be lying and creating things and getting people to believe in them or believe in their story for another buck. It blows most of us away because they're like, oh, that guilt would eat at me. How could you do that? Every day look in the mirror for years. But they do it. And we can't understand because you don't have the mind they do.
Right.
But we can't overlook that some of these people, have mental health problems that are very good. They're very charismatic, and they'll go on, keep doing it until they make no more money out of it.
So, I've got a blunt question. How did you make the transfer from FBI agent to the entertainment field? Was it like a culture shock to you?
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I like to say that I never left there. I'm not working for them, but I left the door open because I really love both worlds. And I might go back with them or a different agency, but it is very different. On one hand, you've got anytime you work for the government, a lot of rules, restrictions, protocol, and it has to be that way because you're expected to testify on things in court and you're held to this standard and this responsibility. The paranormal world, investigations, the groups that are out there now, some of them try really hard to hold themselves to some type of standard, but let's face it, at the end of the day, you're never going to be called on to testify in court, as to your chain of evidence or whether you documented something correctly. And that's why, there's no authority, there's no one to look over your shoulder to see if things are being done right. And so that was hard for me because I'm very rigid in that sense. And in the TV world, people get a little frustrated with me because, look, that's never going to make it on the air. You don't have to take these notes. You don't have to do that. So I'm spending all the time doing what I know how to do.
Right.
And in TV world, we're only filling 17 minutes per case. And I still feel like, no, what if someone comes along and wants to look at my data and replicate what we did? I need to have this down. So that was a shock. Also, I realized in person, I'm more laid back than what is entertaining on TV. So we all laugh at ourselves, sometimes, but really when you get in those situations and it's dark and scary, and you really do feel like you want to turn around and go, what was that? Did you hear that? That's how you feel.
Right.
What as an investigator, though, what I curb myself, what I do is like, I'm very low key, and I'm like, wow, I just heard something. But the audience, they're not there. They need to feel what you're feeling, and so you have to let your gut instincts show through on camera.
Right.
And so I've become more animated, I should say, when I'm on TV.
Well, okay, it's really interesting that you just said that, because what I'd like to ask you, both with the FBI and then both with investigating and even on the show, how much do you rely on that gut instinct?
I think we rely on it more than we realize, and if you don't, then you should. I'm reading some great books. One of them is called How We Decide, and basically it's what our mind logically is only capable of keeping track of about 7 different facts or figures at once. The emotional level works mostly subconsciously in our brain. It's able to keep track of many more things that we may not realize, but the way it lets us know is through our feelings. So you might get this kind of uneasiness or this kind of suspicion, and you might just roll right over it when you're listening to someone talk and not pay attention. But if you stop and try to break it apart a little bit and think, well, why am I thinking this? It's very useful. So that gut instinct, if you follow it and follow, kind of explore why you're feeling that way, it turns up a lot of useful information.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of this background and your time spent on the show, what are some of the things that our listeners, or maybe what sort of piece of advice besides that gut instinct can you give to our listeners when they're sort of deciding whether or not a piece of evidence is real or fake? Is there maybe one key piece of advice that you would give them?
Do fact-checking. I guess if I only had one piece of advice is do your own fact-checking. And this applies to daily life. I mean, we have on the news, we accept that generally as an authority, even though all the news networks have their own agendas. We accept them as an authority, and the media. So we will hear about a story, and then maybe, let's say, something strange. For example, we have millions of animal deaths, that we've been seeing around the country, strange deaths. And they'll come back and they'll say, well, maybe these birds, we think they just got scared by fireworks and ran into each other. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, that's possible. But then the next week, hundreds more die in a different place, thousands more in another place, I think that we've become too complacent in letting other people dish up what we need to know. And we're like grazers. There's so much information out there. I always tell people, if it's important enough to have an opinion, then it's important enough for you to do some fact-checking on your own. So when you're investigating a claim, if you're a paranormal group and somebody tells you their history in a house, check into that. Check into the history of the house and see if it's true that it was built at this time period or whatever. If they have a video, if they have any physical evidence, there's a lot more you can do. There's easy things. Checking the metadata on photographs to see, when it was taken, if it looks like it's been manipulated in Photoshop. Videos are a little more tough, but sometimes we just put ourselves in automatic mode because we do want to believe, or we've had our own experience and we don't question. You
think we've become a little bit more gullible or just sort of spoon-fed, and we just start just believing everything that's on the internet, in the media, as truth?
Well, I guess it depends on who we talk to.
Yeah.
The quote of who we label the believers. Let me tell you, I've been to some UFO conferences, and some of these people are outright kooky.
Yeah.
And I could tell them, for example, that last night I was taken to Saturn, by these 20-foot creatures, and we walked on the rings of Saturn, and they brought me back. It was great. They would look at me, and they would just say, "That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. That happened to me, too," or something. They wouldn't even question, which I think is wrong. Like, it's great to be accepting and open-minded, because who are we to say, without any more information, that someone's not telling the truth? The problem is, if they then accept that as their truth, and then they go and tell other people, "This happened to my friend, he went to Saturn last night." That's the problem. Now, on the other hand, the skeptical, the real skeptics, it's just as bad, because no matter what amount of good evidence we put on YouTube or on the news, they will always come back and tell you it was swamp gas, it was, a weather balloon. There's no other explanation to them in their minds, because it simply can't be the case that we might be being visited. So, like I said, I guess it depends on who you talk to, because some of them are completely too believing, and others are way too skeptical.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a known scammer or someone that you know that has scammed or is completely convicted of hoaxing, standing in front of you, what would you say to them? What would you say to them? Is there anything that you would say to them, or maybe not? Maybe you just turn around and walk away, not even giving them your time?
Well, like I said, I have to give everyone, first of all, a fair shake, and I have to know that with certainty. Someone comes to mind, and I'm not going to raise their name yet because I'm not willing to confront them yet. But if I had personal evidence that I was absolutely certain that they had been scamming something, I feel, it may not be everyone, I feel that it is my duty, they're there in front of me, to talk to them about it. And I don't like confrontations. I really am a non-confrontational person. However, they do a disservice to the field, and they do a disservice to those who are honestly trying to discover the truth. And it puts us that much further back. And there are, wolves among the sheep. And I wouldn't have, such a job with the show that we do if they weren't out there. But, I don't have a problem calling them out.
Good. So we're all excited for the next season of Sci-Fi's Fact or Fake Paranormal Files, and it's due out April 17th. I know I've been jonesing for it since last November, actually. What can we expect from the show this season? Anything that you've is the mindset of everybody sort of, let's top what we did last year?
Oh, of course. We're trying to get the word out for those who haven't heard of the show yet, because what we found is the show does really, really well in reruns. Once they discover it, they like to watch it over and over, and we just need more people to discover it. We're doing really well. For a cable show, going into our third season, so it is bigger and better. This year we've got some really strange phenomena that doesn't fit into some of the other things that we've been doing traditionally. For example, we have a woman in the UK who on video disappears from her bed. A camera is set up, and she literally dissolves. It appears like she dissolves in the sheets of her bed and is gone for 13 minutes. Yeah. Before she reappears. And there's some experiences she was having related to abduction surrounding that. And she's actually, I'm still in very much contact with her. It's very, I find her very credible because she doesn't come out and say, I know it was this, I know it was that. She just wants answers. We have some other cases where we're starting to get into exploring superhuman abilities that we wouldn't maybe categorize as paranormal, but we still want to know, hey, what's going on here?
Cool.
And then we have our usual mix of some amazing UFO cases and some awesome locations and ghost hunting. So, yeah, it is, I guess, bigger and better.
Sounds cool.
And this season will be 12 episodes straight. So they're not going to break us after 6 and make you wait. So
great.
We'll have all 12, and probably within a couple months into that, we'll be filming for the next 12.
Cool. Okay, well, Ben, talking about the show, okay, have you or, and I don't know how this is done, but have you or any of the team members, have they ever gotten upset when you decide who goes on what?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chats here. What was the last?
No, has when you divide up the team, somebody's going to go here and somebody's going this one. Has anyone ever gotten upset? They really want to go on this one.
Yeah, they have. We kind of debate, that a lot of the more. I wouldn't say anything's ever been heated. Never. We're all good friends. But if somebody knows a lot about one particular subject, but it makes more sense that they go help on a different case, some of those things happen. And then logistically, sometimes it's just better with filming schedules and things that we really need other people to go on different cases. So it all comes together, though. At the end of the day, we're all friends, and we have a lot of fun no matter where we go.
Cool.
Well, Ben, I know you have a charity event, or you're involved in a charity event coming up this July for the Lost Limbs Foundation. Can you tell our listeners how they can help contribute and what they can expect from it?
Oh, yeah. Whenever I can, and this goes for anyone who's listening, if you have an organization, that you've got a charity and you're putting together events, I really love doing these things. Whenever I can, I don't, have a lot of discretionary income to where I can just fly around the country and do this, but I waive my appearance fees, to go places and to help out and donate whenever we can. The Lost Limbs Foundation is a group, a nonprofit that Mike Couch had approached me. He is a leg amputee. He had a condition growing up with veins in his leg were knotted. He had more veins in his leg than he was supposed to. And it came to a point in his life where it was so painful that after so many surgeries, he was faced with the choice of to keep his leg and live in pain or to have it amputated. And he chose to have it amputated. And he wrote a book about the whole process, and it was amazing because I've never had to face losing a leg. But he really empathized with other people who went through this, sympathized. And so he wanted to help kids, who have lost limbs and maybe can't enjoy the activities normal kids should, and the financial burden is placed in the family. So he set up this organization, and it's just in the process of actually, getting its legal nonprofit status. And we'll be doing things with their group throughout the year, and all the proceeds from the actual ticket sales go towards that organization. It's a great one. And I'm also starting to work with breast cancer awareness. My mom was diagnosed actually with breast cancer not more than a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
I've just seen an outpouring of love and awesome people, that have been praying for her, thinking about her, and she's going to be fine. She's got her surgery for mastectomy scheduled. I think it's coming up next week. And at any rate, these are the things that really matter.
Right.
Like this is all fun and the paranormal. I love researching this stuff and finding these answers. But the people are what really matter, and that's why we're here anyways. So I love helping out, and if you follow on Twitter, Facebook, my brother's actually doing a half marathon. Crazy brother. He's lost like 180 pounds in the past year. He's doing a half marathon in my mom's name, and he's wearing denim, like all Levi's. I don't know why. He's really kind of crazy. He thought it would be fun to run a half marathon in pants, and so he did that. And now he's going to wear it in all denim in her name to raise money for the Cancer Institute that she's been treated at. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That's absolutely awesome. Well, you know what, Ben? Whatever you've got going or anything like that, we most certainly will promote whatever you've got coming up. But you can add.
Well, we do. We actually have, Lucy, we actually have one more website that I wanted to get out there because I actually went online the other night and bought something for it, FOFgear.com. Ben, why don't you tell us about that?
Yes,
I
your
did.
order, I think we shipped it out today for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, FOF gear, we call it FOF gear. It's for our friends. It's kind of our way of creating some type of clothing line for people who want something from the show. The show has not, as of yet, created official merchandise, and that might happen down the road. But now, Austin and I started a clothing line. So if you go to FOFgear.com, we have some shirts, beanies, hats, stuff that is really cool, and we'll get it shipped out to you. We've got people here, like when we're not filming, that'll ship it out as well.
What does that logo mean on the top of the FOF?
The Latin
yes
stuff, or the logo, the FOF has a backwards F, and then an O and an F, the logo that we came up with, but the words below it that I really kind of got interested in Latin is crede ut videas, and it means believe in order to see. I think a lot of people, they say I'll believe it when I see it, and that's kind of my reverse meaning to that is, well, maybe first you need to believe in order to see properly. So.
That's awesome. I can't wait to get my shirt.
Excellent. Well, you know what, Ben? Again, like I was going to say, in regards to your mom, add our prayers and kind thoughts, and hopefully everything's going to be great. I do want to say, this has been absolutely amazing to have you on the show. You're just so cool, and the show is just absolutely, it's mesmerizing. I mean, like you said, in reruns, they definitely are. Your shows, I can watch them over and over, and I know Anthony does too. But what I'd love to say, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. And anytime you want to come back and join us, please do.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me on and covering some subjects that I apologize. Sometimes I just ramble because I'm geeky when it comes to the investigating part of it.
We're all like that in the field. No. Thank you so much, Ben. And don't forget to watch Ben, Bill, Jael, and the team on April 17th on the only channel that's worth watching, the Sci-Fi Channel. Thank you so much, Ben. And we wish you well. We wish your family well. And we hope you have a great night.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. That was absolutely fantastic. He's just so cool.
He is. I was a little surprised. He was a lot more candid than I thought he was going to be, and I applaud him for that, actually. And we got a little sneak peek at next season, which was pretty cool. I can't wait to see that video of that woman in, what was it, London or Britain, disappearing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So everybody, please don't forget, April 17th, the new season starts of Fact or Fake, and it's on the Sci-Fi Channel.
You know, Lucy, if there's one thing that I hate in this world, and I really want to get into this topic tonight now, I really appreciate Ben coming on and talking to us a little bit about, his beliefs and the fakes and frauds and hoaxes that he's come in contact with, and how his team sort of investigates and gets things going and gets to the bottom of it and investigates it from sort of an FBI mindset. But if there's one thing in this world that I hate, it's a liar. I can take people bashing me or stealing from me or even just hating me. But what I can't stand is for someone to put in the time and the effort to create or conjure up something that is not true or a complete hoax. I get so fed up with people when they say that they're so committed to the paranormal field and then turn around and do what I think is the most damaging thing to us all as paranormal investigators. This is not just about the non-believers. This also includes the so-called paranormal investigators or groups that are out there right now working on their newest Adobe Photoshop software, creating mist in a picture that they took at some haunted location and then posting it on their website or on YouTube as quote-unquote evidence. Now, granted, there are some investigators out there that will claim a piece of evidence as paranormal, and others will have their opinion that it is not. That's fine. That's where we as paranormal investigators have open debates to question and seek the answers. And the group that caught the evidence may or may not believe it to be paranormal. This show tonight is not about that. It's about the idiots out there that purposely create these scams to others. Lucy, we did a show not too long ago on UFOs and government cover-up, and I went off on the government and how I could not stand to be lied to while I pay my hard-earned tax money. The same applies to this. I'm sure all of you out there will agree. We, as true paranormal investigators, or even paranormal enthusiasts, cough up our own hard-earned money and spend it on equipment, traveling, location fees, in the hopes of capturing anything so that we can further the development and the research of the paranormal, whether for ourselves or to contribute to the community, to the paranormal community. When people or groups like this that scam, fake, and hoax things, it sets us all back in our research and makes us spend more money and search more so that we can counteract the setbacks that they create in the field. I recently read an article by Diana Kelly Syed. Now, Diana is the author of Paranormal Obsession, America's Fascination with Ghosts, Hauntings, Spooks, and Spirits, which, by the way, is a really great read if you want to learn about the pop culture aspect of the paranormal community. I want to read what she wrote about when teens fake evidence. And here, this is what she wrote. I recently came across some evidence from a paranormal investigation at a historic property, evidence that outside professional opinion suggested is forged. This particular team approached the site and made a tax-deductible donation to the property in exchange for a few hours of investigation time. During the reveal, the group provided a dozen or so examples of EVP, plus numerous photographs and video artifacts. They investigated for only a few hours. According to their report and the large amount of quote-unquote evidence presented, there was a paranormal event occurring approximately every 3 to 5 minutes. Oh, I wish. This location is active. During investigation, most teams do capture what I feel are legitimate EVP and sometimes interesting light anomalies and personal experiences. I admit, and this is Deanna, that I do not always consider all collected evidence as strong, but I have never come across anything that I felt was forged or faked until now. The question is this: why would any team who basically requested and paid for the privilege of an investigation go to the trouble of fabricating evidence? There are many reasons for this, but one is because some teams just want an experience. Sometimes they want it so badly that the only way to make the experience real is to fake it. This may include posturing to appear more important or connected than they really are. It may mean having no critical thinking skills when it comes to evidence, so that every single thing becomes ghostly, every creak, every itch, and every stomach noise. In some unfortunate cases, it means forging, augmenting, or outright faking evidence to convince their client and themselves that they are getting what they signed up for, a hauntingly good time. When teams fake evidence, that is bad, real bad. But if a team does it on their own time and their own dime, it remains their problem. These events allows the larger community to openly question ethics of those on that team. Plus, there are enough well-informed investigators who will quickly call out teams who decide to post highly questionable evidence on their site, and we all know that certain teams do just that. The problem, however, is that these teams go into private homes or businesses where clients are truly frightened, concerned, of merely curious about events in their private spaces. Misrepresenting the nature of any evidence can be emotionally injurious to a client and may misinform individuals who are generally interested in understanding personal experiences. This particular ethical issue is one serious investigators need to find a way to creatively and tactfully tackle in the name of protecting what we do, but also as advocates of client rights. You know, I think she is absolutely right. Even though I agree when she says that when these teams do it on their own time and their own dime, it still affects us all as a group. But it is more dangerous and irresponsible when they do it to private clients in their homes or businesses. I can't even imagine going to someone's home, I really can't, to investigate where there's a family, a mom, a dad, and children, and investigate, go back home, and then listen to the recordings or do some data analysis and find basically nothing. But then you turn around and create something to fake a spirit or a haunting. Go back to the family's home, look them in the eye, and say, yeah, your home is haunted, and look what we found, when in reality there was nothing. Why? What is the purpose? We all know that sometimes spirits just don't show themselves. Mark and Debbie Constantino just said last week to us when we interviewed them that you can go one night to a place and have tons of activity, and then the next night or a week later and have nothing, zilch. If you call yourself a paranormal investigator, then make sure you act like one. I know I'm going off on a rant here, Lucy, and I'm sorry, but I'm sure that there are tons of listeners out there now listening that are agreeing with me. This anger comes from the disbelief that people can do this, especially when it comes to the dead. Respect the dead as you would the living.
You know, Anthony, I cannot agree with you more. Personally, I can't stand it when people in a paranormal group consciously agree to deceive not only themselves, but the people that they're trying to help. I have to read you all something that was written on the show invite that many of you listeners got to come to this show. But for those of you who didn't read this on the message board, I want to repeat it because I think it's the most profound piece of statement on this topic that I've come across. And it comes from a gentleman named James Strait who responded to our invite this week. And here's what he wrote. Credibility is everything in every manner of investigation, but especially in this genre of investigation. The time spent vetting all manner of data, especially data found exclusively on the Internet, is considerable, to put it modestly. Internet data, 99% of which turns out to be fraudulent in origin, proportionally lengthens the journey towards the truth. Worse, the investigative waters become so muddied that keeping focus on the viability of data becomes more difficult with each passing event. Those that perpetrate a hoax, fraud, or any form of misrepresentation is doing huge, if not irreversible, damage to those seeking the truth, no matter which side of the fence the truth resides. To attain and sustain irrefutable credibility demands that extreme effort must go into investigating, documenting, and validating the authenticity of any and all data brought forth on the Internet. The Internet is wild and lawless like the 19th century American West. The problem with pictures, video, and eyewitness accounts found on the Internet is that they're pictures, video, and eyewitness accounts found on the Internet. The only filter concerning the quality of Internet data is the moral character of the person or persons loading the information into cyberspace. As a result of there being such a huge issue with many people's moral compasses, investigating intangible events requires a standard of evidence that rises above that normally seen in cases where physical evidence is readily available. To not meet that standard undermines the credibility of the investigator. So yes, the prevention of fraud in any investigative effort is paramount. The best way to prevent fraud for those inclined to do so is to be aware that there are committed people on the opposite side of the equation that will expose them for the lowlifes that they are. I'm glad to see that you figuratively and literally blown the whistle. Let the outing games begin.
I love that. I loved his post, and I'm so glad that he put it on the invite that we had sent out, because I think it's really profound, and it gets to the point. It's, I think, the best statement that I've ever come across on this topic. And James, I applaud your dedication and commitment to the field, and I'm sure everyone listening appreciates it as well. Okay. Now that I've calmed down a little bit, Lucy, I want to get real with our listeners, okay? I've listened to some shows and heard people talk about this topic for a while, but have always been, these shows have always been too scared to name these groups or people that are fakes and frauds. Well, you know what? We're not going to do that on this show. I'm not going to back away from outing them. I'm tired of the crap, and I feel that we should out them for the scammers that they are. Now, we can sit here all night and probably till next week talking and examining all about the Ghost Hunters episodes. Are they questionable? Yes. Have they admitted to faking stuff? No. Will they? No. Do we really care about Ghost Hunters and whether or not they fake things? To me, no, because it's television. Things are done, that we don't know about behind the scenes and by producers and production companies. Who knows? Whether or not they went along with it is not up for debate. It happened. Everyone dissected the YouTube videos on it and discovered what was found or not found, and it's done and over with. There are tons of videos and websites dedicated to them about their fakes that I don't want to waste any more time on it. To me, it's just useless energy. What I want to do is inform everyone of the scams and fakes that our listeners may not be aware of. Those are the ones that I want to out and to hang out on the line of shame.
Oh, boy, Anthony. I think they deserve it 100%.
I do, too. And you know what? We're going to share some with you all right now. Go ahead, Lucy. Start us off.
Okay, here we go. I'm sure all of you out there in paranormal land have seen or heard the sites or groups that claim to be able to get you certified as a paranormal investigator, right? Well, wrong. There's no such thing as a certified paranormal investigator. It does not exist. So for someone to tell you that you can become an accredited certified investigator is just doing so to have you fork over money for a lame piece of paper with your name on it. Don't fall for this trick. It's nonsense. There are no experts and no accredited institution or group that can certify you. It's like if I were to say to you, hey, you like to fluff your pillow before you go to sleep? Well, I can teach you some techniques, and you can become a certified pillow fluffer. Come on, give me a break. You can fluff your own pillows, and if you get advice on how to fluff your pillow, then that's great. But you know what? It's just that, advice. It's not becoming certified. There is a great website from a paranormal group out in California called the River Cities Paranormal Society of Northern California. Their website is rcpsnorcal.com. Now, on their website, they have a section called Fraudulent Websites, and I do suggest everybody check this out. They list 17 websites that claim to certify you in the field of paranormal. And the prices they charge, they're outrageous. For instance, ghostweb.com charges $400 for a certification class. You pay for a CD or a booklet and basically teach yourself at home. They even provide the test to take and send in for grading, and then you get your certification or diploma. Come on, is this not crazy? Shame on you, ghostweb.com. Here's another one. Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunter Society. Now, on their website, they promoted their team and other folks as certified by themselves. How the hell do you certify yourself? What's funny about their tagline or their slogan is, "We are seekers of the truth, and the truth shall be found." Yeah, right. The truth was found, and you're fakes.
The next one is sort of a downer. This person is one of the most respected. I think is one of the most respected in the field. Not only him, but also his parents. And I know you guys know about this guy. And I'm talking about Joshua Warren, son of Lorraine and Ed Warren, famous psychics from such cases as the Amityville Horror and others. If you go to Google and type in Joshua Warren Institute, it's the first website that pops up. It's sort of a weird link to it, so I didn't want to repeat it on here because it was weird and I know everybody would get confused. But if you just typed in Joshua Warren Institute, it's the first website that pops up. Click on it, and you're going to find a course on becoming certified at the unbelievable price of $995 over the course of 6 weeks. That is utterly insane. I am so disappointed in this discovery. I thought out of all the people this would not be true, but unfortunately it is. If you go further in his website, you're going to find what they call their quote-unquote lab. What it actually looks like, and they actually show pictures of it, what it looks like is a converted garage. Yeah, I'm so disgusted. I can't talk about this one anymore. So, Lucy, what else can we shine the light on?
Okay, Anthony, how about some of the evidence from groups that we found online?
Sure, let's do it. And if anyone out there has anything that they want to shed light on or maybe expose, feel free to call in and share with us all. The number to call in is 661-244-9831. Lucy, we actually have a caller right now. Do you mind if I pick up this caller?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. Area code 760. Hello, you are on the air with Anthony and Lucy. Who's calling?
Are you talking about me?
Yes, I am. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah. I'm just talking about independent, where you do your work on EVPs and the fraud in that, and where you listen on, when TAPS was on and they were discovered, with the false EVPs, and I didn't like that very much. So I'm watching Ghost Adventure. Go ahead.
Well, I said this. I mentioned this earlier before. As soon as we sort of bring up the topic, or anybody brings up the topic on paranormal frauds and hoaxes, the first thing that 98% I think people will think of or start to talk about is ghost hunters and how fake they've been and the coat tugging and the EVPs and the misguided videos and the way that they sort of present themselves either on television or off television. It's to me, I think it's been just talked up to death. I think we all know our beliefs. We all know what we've seen and what we believe as far as what they've purported as evidence. And, I agree with you. There are many things that I have noticed from TAPS and Ghost Hunters, the show, that are speculative. And I've had the privilege of actually ghost hunting with them privately. And I was a little disappointed in the way that they sort of carried themselves, even off camera. And I even see a little bit of it on camera, as I'm sure everybody else has. But I just truly think that this topic is the topic on ghost hunters is sort of talked to death. And this is the reason why we wanted to do the show tonight, is sort of just to push it forward and now start to talk about the reality of things. You know, are you a paranormal investigator, or are you just interested in the paranormal?
Oh, I'm a paranormal investigator. I do a lot of work on my own. I've discovered a lot on my own. One of them is at the places I like to go is Hunter's Steakhouse, where I discovered the entities on the outside of the restaurant. It's a well-known haunted restaurant, and I'm just about ready to have a friend of mine and I go and camcord it and do that, and then send it into white noise.
Well, that's great. And I encourage you to do that, and you know, I encourage all paranormal investigators as well as myself, you know, because God knows I'm not an expert in this field at all either. And so, you know, the reason why we're doing this show tonight, Lucy and I are doing this show tonight, is so that we inform everybody of the people and the groups that we come in contact with. You know, again, we can talk about ghost hunters till we're blue in our face, but you know what? When are we ever really going to be involved with them? Not by chance, not at all.
Do you know what I discovered with this, though, in my investigation? See, since the restaurant was built over an Indian graveyard, you have to think that Indians didn't bury their dead underneath the ground. They buried them above the ground and on the outside. And I discovered that my K2 meter went to red in the parking lot. And also, I gave some Indian artifacts to them, like, you know how Indians trade? And that's when the K2 meter went wild also.
Right.
So I thought,
you know,
like an Indian does. Excuse me?
Well, you know what? I'm Native American, and basically what you're saying, a lot of the things that you're saying are true. But you know what? That's a subject that I think maybe further on down the line we're probably going to do a show basically on Native American hauntings and spirituality. And you know what? At that time, I think that's something that we need to get into. But tonight, I think we want to focus. We want to focus on the paranormal frauds and fakes. But you know what? Thank you so much, darling, for calling in. Really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, too.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Lucy, go ahead. Let's keep this momentum going.
Okay. You know what? We actually posted some stuff on our Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio, you know, about fraudulent stuff like the one about Blackout Paranormal and the claim of being scratched, and also one from Texoma Ghost Group. And they actually caught a family member of the home that they were investigating fake a paranormal claim. The group, Texoma Ghost, was not the one committing the fraud, okay? I want to make that perfectly clear. Bravo to that team, though, for outing the family member. It works both ways. Now, Anthony and I recently found a fake claim. Now, this one may or may not be something that was intentionally done, okay? I do want to say that. This group may not have noticed it, but it is still worth noting.
That's right, Lucy. You know, when we were looking at some evidence, we were reviewing not only just purported YouTube videos or websites that were known to be fake or hoaxed. We actually went in and started to look at, you know, real submitted videos of groups out there that were purporting evidence. And, you know, we came across this one group, and I'm sure once I say this name, everybody's going to know who they are because they've been on Paranormal Challenge, and they have a wide presence and a big audience on YouTube. And the person or the group that I'm referring to is Resident Undead. Now, I just want to preface this, like just what Lucy was saying. They may or may not know that this is sort of non-true evidence, if that is a word. I'm making up words like Ben did. But they seem to be very popular, and so they have, and I know that they have great editing software for their quote unquote shows that they post on their about their investigations and locations. And it's almost sort of like they're a comical group. They sound and act and portray themselves as identical twins of Ghost Adventures. It truly is hysterical if you've ever watched their videos. They created an introduction to their videos, and it is, to me, the exact, to a T, of watching Ghost Adventures. Like I said before, they've been on Paranormal Challenge, and they've won. Good for them. But sadly, it seems that one of their pieces of evidence seems to be fake. Well, not so much fake, but they're misleading you into believing what the EVP is saying on the recorder. If you go to YouTube and you type in resident undead entry and the hash mark number 2 in YouTube, you're going to find this video. And at approximately 1 minute and 20 seconds into the video, you'll hear what they claim as an EVP saying, "I can," in response to the investigator asking, "Can you make the noise louder?" They repeat the EVP 3 times. The first time that they repeat it, you can clearly hear the investigator saying, "Can you make that noise louder?" And in the second and third repeat, they cut out that part and only let you hear the supposed, quote-unquote, "I can" EVP. What they were doing was conducting an RT EVP session, which is real-time EVP. You have a special recorder, and I have this, and Lucy and I have done this on other investigations. You have this special recorder that records like any other one does, but this one, you have headphones attached to it on the recorder, and the recorder is set on a delay so that you can hear the questions and the communications that are being said in the room on about a 5-minute, I think you can set it to a 5-minute or 7-minute, 5-second or 7-second delay, so that you can instantly hear if there are any responses and have this communication. I think this group just got overly excited and heard their questions and made it seem as though it was a spirit communicating. What I believe it's saying, or what I believe you're hearing, is the first part of the investigator saying, "Can you?" and they interpreted it as, "I can." It sort of makes you wonder also, too, what else may be sort of ignored or misrepresented in their videos.
Well, you know what, Anthony? I just want to kind of change the direction a little bit. And here's something that I find it's shocking to discover that in the psychic industry of today, 1 out of every 4 people who call themselves psychic or medium readers only about 1 out of that are actually going to be a genuine psychic with real abilities. Now, this is going to give you a clearer idea of how many fake psychics are actually out there, preying on desperate people who are in real need of help. I find it disgusting, though, that there are people out there pretending to be something that they're not. Why do they pretend, and what do they get out of it? Well, the plain facts are that greed is one of the major reasons for their pretense. Now, to these fraud artists, the needs of others mean little. They care little about the psychological or emotional damage that their scam may be causing to those who need reassurance that there is light at the end of the tunnel for them. There is hope for you, though, who would like to find a genuine reader and find an honest reading. So let's see if we can separate the frauds from the genuine psychic readers, okay?
Lucy, let me just interrupt. Just for time's sake, can you just read up till 10, 1 to 10?
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Look, many fake psychics online are going to ask you for the date of your birth or your star sign. Now, this is so that they can check their local newspaper for what the day's astrology reading is, and then they just type it up differently and make it sound like they're actually picking up on information from you. Fake psychic online will ask for the country or the city that you live in, and sometimes they're going to ask for your age. This is because where you live can say a lot about the life, education, or your social status, your work class, middle class, upper class, etc. You see, say you found out someone said they lived in Egypt, and an extraordinary person could guess the way this person lives and what kind of life they're leading. A person's age and sex can tell fake psychics things about general lifestyles and sometimes even the status of relationships by using simple techniques often used in the study of sociology. Now, a fake psychic will make all kinds of promises that they can bring back your lover with spells and candles, which of course will add up to extra and expensive charges. If a psychic says you have a curse on you, your family or friend, this is a definite warning that you've found a fake psychic, because curses, hexes do not exist, and fear can be a powerful tool when it involves your nearest and dearest. Many of the tips that I've already given you have been used by fraud psychics both on and offline. Another sign that you are dealing with a fraudulent psychic is that they tell you they're famous or they're internationally world known or they've read for Hollywood stars. If you have never heard of them and all they have is an online site, then it's probably more realistic that they're a fraud. And if they were so world famous, then you, your family, or your friends would have heard something about them. Fraud psychics don't like to be tested, so they will never be interested in you asking a few questions that only you have the answers to. If they will not let you ask a few questions first or refuse to do a general reading, then it is more than likely they're con artists. A real, genuine psychic can tell you about your past, present, and future with some in-depth knowledge that not everybody's going to know. If all a psychic is willing to do is give you airy-fairy future readings with no personal or relevant information, then you got a fake psychic on your hands. For face-to-face readings, offline, it is better that you go wearing some casual clothes, wear no rings, jewelry, or designer wear. Everything from the way that you sit, talk, clothes, and the jewelry you wear can tell a fake psychic a lot about you. If you speak very proper, using a lot of big words, then it probably means you're well educated. Designer clothes can tell the reader that you're not short on cash. Jewelry, rings in particular, can tell about relationships. Jewelry in general can tell the reader your social class, your job status, whether you're in a well-paid job. Do not give anything away if you want a real, genuine, and honest reading. If you drive but can walk to your reading, then do it. Because regardless of what you wear or do not wear, a real psychic will be able to pick up on your life regardless. Do not let a fake psychic reel you in and manipulate you into giving them more information than you should or need to. A real, genuine psychic will never ask you any questions. A genuine psychic will only ever give you answers to your questions. Fake psychics can manipulate people into answering their questions and elaborating on their own answers. And then the fake reader will give you back your own answer, but change it around to make it sound like they're picking up on something psychically from you. A fake psychic will be more interested in telling you what they think you want to hear rather than being completely blunt and telling you your situation or what the problem is. For example, say you go to a psychic wanting to know if the guy or girl you're with is the one for you. A fake psychic, through a series of manipulative questioning, will have you tell them what you hope the answer will be without you realizing it. Then they're going to answer your question exactly how you want it to be. For the fake psychic, it's not about caring for others. It's not about trying to help others, but it's more about getting you hooked for more readings. All the fake psychic cares about is money and themselves. A fake psychic will try to reel you in and make a lot of cash out of you by pretending they are your friend and that they care. Fake psychics are experts in manipulation. A genuine psychic will be blunt, honest, and they're not going to try to be your friend, but they are going to honestly provide you with a professional service just like any other advisor or consultant. Finally, fake feedback is a big problem in finding a genuine psychic among fakes. If you go to an online psychic site where the psychics are reviewed and find hundreds of glowing reviews and no average or bad reviews, there's a very good chance that this psychic is fake. All psychics have good days and bad days, and no psychic is 100% accurate. So if the reviews don't reflect that, and all the psychic's profile is filled with 100% worth of glowing reviews, then you're going to know that this fake psychic has been doctoring his or her review. Now, some psychic sites do allow the psychics to only use certain reviews, so fake psychics can manipulate desperate individuals to giving them a 5-star review.
All right, so let's name some of these so-called psychics and scam artists. And, the first one here I know everybody knows, and I just need to bring it up just because we're on the topic, and, we wouldn't be talking about the topic if I don't bring up this person here. And her name is Sylvia Browne. While Sylvia Browne hasn't been officially outed as a fraud, the evidence is pretty substantial to debunk her psychic powers. According to Robert S. Lancaster, creator of the website StopSylvia.com, her track record for correctly predicting events is no better than could be achieved through educated guesses. Additionally, she vehemently declines the use of scientific testing on her powers. As an example of her fraudulence, there was this well-known case of Sean Hornbeck. This poor boy had been kidnapped in 2002. I'm sure everybody knows this story. Searching for answers, his parents visited the Montel Williams show, where Sylvia told them Sean was dead and went into details about where his body could be found. In 2007, Sean was found alive. If you're going to tell a family that your psychic abilities are telling you that their son is dead, and here's where his body may be, you better be damn well sure that your ability is correct. That is such a damn shame that she should just stop proclaiming to be a psychic. That's it. She should end it right now.
Anthony, another story about Sylvia Browne that turned out to be false was when a woman came to her asking about her husband and his death. Sylvia went on to say that she felt that he drowned and that this was the cause of his death, when in fact the woman had not yet revealed that her husband actually died in New York City on 9/11.
All right, this next psychic, and I say psychic in quotes, is someone that we're going to expose probably maybe for the first time on air. And it's the most obscene one of them all. And she's actually not even a real human being. Have you guys ever heard about the international psychic Gabriella? All right, no, well, go to her website, and I say her in quotes. The website is Gabriella-psychic.com. Gabriella is not a real psychic. She is not even a person. Section 10 in her website's terms of service, and I encourage everybody, if they're going to get any sort of psychic reading online, try and do some sort of investigative searching on your own and go through the entire website. And it usually has some sort of terms of service on there. Read it thoroughly, and I believe you it will be an eye-opening experience. And in Section 10 in her website's terms of service, the webpage bluntly says, I'm getting choked up talking about this, her website bluntly says, in quotes, Gabriella and all characters involved in the website's content and emails sent are fictional characters. The pictures used on the website are for illustration purposes only. Still want a psychic reading from an admitted fake? Read Gabriella's Terms of Service, page Section 2, which clearly states, all readings are for entertainment purposes only, and no guarantee can be given as to an accuracy. Now, I know that that's given out for everything. You have to pretty much say it's for entertainment purposes. But if you still want, an expensive entertainment and a fake psychic reading, then by all means send your information, and Gabriella Psychic and Spiritual Medium, who is a computer and nothing else, will send you an email with a confirmation link. It might say in part, our meeting is no accident. The proof of this is that I've just now had a vision. United States, that's where it happened. That's why I've decided to let you benefit from a special priority reading. Please note that I can only do that for people for which I feel a deep and special connection. You're right. The article that I got this story from goes on to say that the reporter actually contacted the site for a reading. And here is what was said. An hour or two after I sent my information, quote-unquote Gabriella, emailed me, yes, Sylvia, and that was the reporter's fictitious name. Yes, Sylvia, in you I have discovered someone of high morals and ethics who is also extremely sensitive. Using a different name, birth date, and email address, I requested another quote-unquote reading and got one exactly the same. Both times, Gabriella recommended a grand, in-depth astral reading, but her quote-unquote inner voice told her I couldn't pay the $200, her usual fee, so she will charge me only $49. She furnished a convenient link for my credit card or PayPal payment. A bit later, I got an email saying slyly, I know you have read my email. She knows because I gave her the confirmation link that led her to track me. The next email begins, Sylvia, I don't want to panic you, but... And further emails pestered me every few hours until I unsubscribed. Gabriella's video testimonials include Patrick from Minneapolis, who in the video says his name is Robert, and quote-unquote Nancy Johnson, an American quoted as saying, Gabriella's advice are priceless to me. A clearly non-American grammatical construction. Yes, Gabriella has a Facebook fan page too, guys. But remember, her own website says she is a fake. Gabriella's bio says she studied astrology alongside a 33rd degree Grand Master and is the only Westerner taught, quote-unquote, the secrets of celestial magic by the great Indian master Sri Malaki. Then there's a quote from the Clairvoyance mag. Several foreign magazines have already voted Gabriella Best Psychic of the Year. Needless to say, there is no Clairvoyance magazine or Best Psychic of the Year award. Her Indian master is not referenced anywhere else on the net. Malaki is in fact a form of Sunni Islam canon law, unrelated to the celestial magic. The title Grand Master is given to every top officer in local Freemason chapters, and their 33rd degree designation, although it sounds dramatic, is meaningless, like the honorary degrees that colleges give their wealthy donors. Even if Masons were astrologers, which they aren't, their men-only club wouldn't be training women. Gabriella's readings mentioned no planets, no zodiac signs, and gave no indication that she knows or practices astrology at all. I foresee that it's best if you avoid Gabriella. She's about as psychic as a toilet seat.
Okay, and finally, there is the infamous John Edward. John Edward rose to prominence as a psychic in the late 1990s. In 1999, he got his own show, Crossing Over with John Edward, in which he claimed to talk to the dead relative of members in the audience. However, James Randi and other skeptics write Edward off as nothing more than a cold reader. Now, cold reading is a psychic technique used to gain knowledge about a person based on their age, their clothing, their body language, and other physical or verbal cues. Now, for more on cold reading, there's a lot of stuff on the Internet. You can find out about it. But looking at one reading from Edward's show, Randy reported that the psychic was only correct about 3 out of 23 total claims. Reports from audience members suggested that the majority of these misses were edited out before the show airs.
Yeah, I know. That's all that we can do, is breathe heavy because this topic gets me so angry. And I know everybody out there is saying, why is Anthony so animated or crazy tonight? And you know what? That's kind of funny because I'm the crazy one tonight, Lucy, not you. But this topic gets to me because, like I said before, it eats at me that we spend our money. We go and we do these things on good faith and on good terms to try and find evidence of the afterlife, of spirits, of another realm, so that we can find answers or that we can contribute and maybe make this a scientific division, make it a part of the scientific community, because right now we're the outcast of the scientific community. And the more and more that people scam and fake things, it's just creating more of that division between us and the scientific world. And, it's only making it more difficult and much more harder for us to counteract that and keep pushing forward when you've got these let me choose my words, I'm just going to say it, hoaxers I have other choice words to say right now, pulling at us and pulling us down, and it really is a shame. I don't know, Lucy, if you've got any final thoughts on this.
You know what? If we talked about everything that's out there, we'd be on all night. We'd be on for days. We'd be on for weeks. And the whole issue, the whole point of this show is just to open your eyes and just be aware that it's happening. It's happening out there, and it's happening more and more. And hopefully we've touched on just a tiny bit of the iceberg. But you know what? It's Titanic all over again. It's something that really eats at every honest paranormal investigator, every honest psychic, every honest person who is searching for that truth. And these people are the ones that are going to hold us back and prevent us from moving forward.
All right, Lucy, here is where we promote. I want to move on a little bit and get to some of the last-minute stuff that we usually normally do at the end of our show. And this is where we promote and highlight fellow paranormal investigators from around the world. We've already mentioned groups from the West Coast and East Coast, and even one from Canada, and actually one from Hawaii. So why hasn't your group been mentioned on our show? What are you waiting for? Just send us an email at paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com with my promo in the subject line. Be sure to include your group's names, all the names of your members, and any interesting facts about your group or any of your investigations. Lucy and I both love giving back to the paranormal community. This is what we're here for. We're not fakers. We're not scammers. We give back to the paranormal community, and we hope that this helps get your group and your mission out in the public for everyone to notice. So tonight we actually have two groups to promote, and the first one is Spirit Realm Investigative Project, SRIP. They are an all-girl team located in the Denver area. They have been featured on the Paranormal Challenge USS Hornet episode, which I remember watching that. Their team leader is Leanna Jonas. Their tech manager is Tawny Heron. And they have a medium on their team, Allison McNeil. They specialize in mining town locations in the Colorado Rockies. They use all up-to-date scientific equipment, but they also practice metaphysical beliefs. Their approach to communication with spirits is non-provoking, unlike some others, and they only carry it out with respect. They're going to perform crossovers for those spirits that communicate that they need help. They practice full debunking, which we love, at all times, and only put out evidence to that public that they stand by after any explanation cannot be found. They also film full interviews and the investigation and give all their clients a CD. That's pretty cool, with any evidence that they capture. Please visit their webpage for evidence. They have a Facebook page, and it is at facebook.com/Spirit Realm Investigative Project, or they actually have a YouTube channel, and if you go to youtube.com/user/SRIP3, I guess if you just go to YouTube and just type in SRIP and the number 3, you'll get their YouTube channel.
Okay. Well, the second group that we have tonight is Paranormal Ghost Investigations, PGI. Their founder and lead investigator, David Fries, just came back from a 7-month deployment in the military. They are located in Central California. Their website is paranormalghostinvestigations.com, all one word. They have investigated Wolf Manor and Linda Vista Hospital, and one of their most interesting cases was at Oddfellows Building in Lemoore, California. They were able to capture a clear EVP and a photograph of a man standing in front of a piano. Awesome stuff. Now, other members of the team are Bernie and Scott Rodriguez, Levon Fries, and they also work with a sister group from Fresno, California. Okay, now let's get on to the good stuff. Let's announce our Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. And this person is, I like to consider a friend, and she has supported us, and she's been there from the beginning. And I want to say congratulations to Nina Manfrey, our Paranormal Radio Review Fan of the Week. Yay!
Yay!
Okay, guys. I think that's it. Wow, what a show. You know, as I said before, this is only a small portion of the massive issue of the fraud that's happening in the paranormal field. I think we've got to revisit this subject again soon because it doesn't look like it's going to stop. We hope this show opened your eyes and helped you, our loyal fans, to be more aware of what is happening. We hope you continue to post and to comment on the things that you find. Don't let it keep happening. Anthony, thank you again for another excellent show. I know this one got you going pretty good, and you know what? I love it. I really want to thank everyone for listening to us tonight, and please join us next week as we review one of our favorite subjects in the whole world, haunted locations. And speaking of haunted locations, Anthony, I can't wait, and I really have to mention this. On April 11th, we're going to be investigating one of the most active spots in the United States, Prospect Place Mansion in Trinway, Ohio. We hope to broadcast live that night, so keep checking our Facebook page for details. We want to share part of our experience there with you, and we actually want to allow you to ask the spirit questions through your phone. So, on that note, have a paranormal week, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio. Paranormal Review Radio.